right, it says we are live for realsies this time. I believe that we truly are. And hopefully everyone's hearing our lovely intro music. All right. Thanks for putting up with us, everyone. We're just testing some new things today. We have had such a fun time already talking with Mr. Jeff, but let us get into our show here. I am KatmanU Darrow, psychic empath and psychic wrangler. Welcome to Third Eye Salon, where in each and every show, we take a fresh look between the veils of reality. And in this show, we're taking a fresh look between the veils of Canadian Jeff Tolley's awakening, which includes an NDE, a 3-month Kundalini awakening, and an ET, a realization that there's an ongoing ET contact with a salamander type being, which basically just another day here at Third Eye Salon. Oh. But we are so excited to get into it. It's an intense journey, but we are all heart holding Jeff in love as he shares some of his most intense times. So before we get into all that, let's say hello to my bestest friend and psychic conscious business coach, our hostess with the mostest, Linda Coulter-Burge. Hello, Linda.
Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'll be your live stream co-host today, as always. And as always, my policy is play nice or get out, because we're here to support each other and love each other. Be sure to like, share, subscribe so other people can find us. And check out the links described below if you want some more information about our topic today. And thank you, everyone who's donated to Third Eye Salon. You help us bring new technology to help us in bringing these shows to you. And please join our Facebook group and our event page. We have such great discussions there. Love everybody that's in that group. And I am going to turn it back over to Kat.
Hey, all right, thank you, Linda. I also want to make sure we just say hello to Jeff. Jeff, just say hello so we can see your sweet face for a moment.
Hello, hello, hello. My name's Jeff, and I am Canadian.
Hey. That's what it's all about. All right, so we also have our lovely fresh co-host Angela Anderson with us. She's an artist, motorcycle mechanic, software engineer, channeler of Oneness. Basically, whatever she puts her mind to, she does. Hello, Angela. You're looking so fresh and fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well this morning, guys. How are you today? As he said, my name is Angela Anderson. I'm yielded in service to the Christ consciousness. So all that wishes to flow through flows through. So yeah, I'm excited to get into the story today with Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you. I was just commenting on her fresh look. So
yeah,
that was a pre-show chat. And then we have Jillian, who is we have 2 Canadians in one show today. This is very exciting for us. She is an OBE, ET experiencer, a spirit experiencer, or I should say OBE experiencer. Basically, she had her own Kundalini awakening. So her and Jeff are going to have some notes to share for sure. Jillian, we'd love to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm excited to be talking to another Canadian. Jeff has a whole mixed bag of experiences, and I can't wait for them to all be brought out.
Absolutely. You got a wee bit of a cold, but it sounds like you're doing better than you were last week.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it was, but it's not getting better very quick.
Oh, okay. Well, if you all want to send Jillian some love today and your thoughts and prayers for her healing and recovery, please do. All right, so let's get into Jeff's bio and then we can get into this conversation. I'm just so excited to get into this. So Jeff Tolley's awakening has been one psychic explosion after the other. Before Jeff's NDE, he was on a very negative path and was consumed by grief, pain, and trauma. He also suffered greatly from opioid drug addiction and various mental health problems. On July 17th, 2010, that day, Jeff decided to end it all and consumed an entire bottle of narcotic painkillers to find himself in the very next conscious moment, floating above his body. From there, he realized what life was all about, why he was here, and what here really is, and what he needed to do to accomplish his in this earthly world, and how he needed to do that. He saw how everything connects, and at the same time, and at that time and space are only side effects of living your life on planet Earth. His mission is to help those who struggle with all kinds of afflictions, whether physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. He's also here to help those through the awakening process. He invites you to follow his journey forward while he shares all that he has learned from the past 12 years in the hopes that you can live your life awake, happy, healthy, and on purpose. And so this isn't even, his bio doesn't even cover his Kundalini awakening, which lasted for 3 months. So if you're excited to join this journey with us today and find out more about Jeff's all the things he's been through to get to the point where he is today, please give us some likes, give us some thumbs ups so we can share this content more readily with other people who will benefit from his material. All right, Jeff. So we snatched you away from our friend Jeff Mara. That's where I found you. And I was immediately like, oh my God, this man has been through so much. My heart just went out to you. So I wanted you to start the story kind of by giving us a little snapshot of your life before, and then before the NDE, and then what you experienced within the NDE. And then we're going to go deeper and wider so people have even a wider range of what you've gone through.
Yeah. So to give pretext, I guess, when I was very young, I always felt like the outsider. So there was something about me that didn't fit. And I didn't know what it was. Obviously, I'm young. So I've always had this uniqueness to me that I could never put my finger on growing up. And other people would feel it too, but they wouldn't know either. I was like that kid, and I guess my family, where aunties or uncles would be like, there's something about him and not the other two brothers. I have two brothers, and they would always kind of say there's something going on, just don't know what it was. And I didn't either. I just felt like I was very different in the sense, like I grew up in the mountains, so I would always bring myself and be drawn out to nature. And it was if I could communicate in a way emotionally though, or like connect in a way to like nature or waterfalls or the trees. So I always wanted to be there. Now I'm not like speaking to them, but I felt something. And like I was young, I didn't know what I felt, but there was something that I knew others didn't feel. I just knew that. Talking about like when I'd see people like chopping the forest down and stuff, and I'd feel like, oh, I don't think I'd be able to do that in a sense because I could feel the tree screaming or something. I know that sounds so crazy, but when I was young, that just felt that way, that this connection, or like the nature was alive, but it wasn't. Something was running through nature. I just couldn't put my finger on it or have any description for it. So like I said, this starts at a very, very young age of feeling unique and different. I also had an experience where my grandmother died when I was, I can't remember. I was like a young, but 9 or 10. I don't know exactly the age, but my grandmother come to me in spirit. And that was like kind of a real big, okay, now consciously I'm aware of something unique about me because I'm seeing dead people now at this point. So now I know to some regard there's something going on. But growing up too, I suffered through a lot of trauma and abuse, and then that connection got completely stifled, like absolutely just kicked off. So I don't know if like the trauma or stuff was a part of that. I don't know what happened, but it knocked me right off that connection, and then kind of led me into doing drugs, which was the one way that I felt I could numb all the pain or numb the issues of my past. And then one drug just led to another, really, as it kind of went on. Now, I've always been, all the stuff that I went through, to some would seem very extreme and like what's going on. And to me, it is too. But I've always had this extreme nature to me, where like even my drug addiction was so bloody extreme. It was nothing I did was mild, I guess, nothing. So the awakening would never be mild as well, because nothing is mild. It was always extremes. There was never the balance between these two extremes. I was always on that far extreme end of everything I did. Like if I failed school, I really failed, like really badly. Or like if I did like something, if I passed or something, then I passed like with flying colors. It was just these weird extremes that I always play with. So the awakening is no exception to that rule at all. And then I guess I'm gonna kind of roll into the NDE. Like things got so bad that it just kind of propelled. My brother died a year prior in 2009. And I think that was kind of the end for me, because me and my brother were best friends. We were the kind of like twins, but we weren't, but we had the same friends. We did the same stuff, even though we were 5 years difference in age. We were very close, like abnormally close, as brothers would be in that age group too. And then he died, and that was kind of the end for me. Like I didn't want to live anymore. I kind of bared through it for the next year, just kind of yeah.
How did your brother pass? I just wanted to find out.
Yeah, so he was a overdose on drugs. So it was like kind of alcohol, pills, drugs, like the whole gambit of stuff. Yeah. And so it's funny because, you know, it's like he knew that's how the soul, like he knew, because the night before he died, he came to my room and said, "I love you." But here's the thing about that. He never said that to me. So that was never a said out loud thing. And then that night he died. So it's like his soul knew that he was leaving. And yeah, and then just waking up in the morning, him being, you know, on the floor, unconscious, not there. So that was really just a big kick in the pants for sure. And the grief, I think, because you know, I'm not someone who knew how to deal with stuff either. So guess what? You know, it just bottled up. So even the grief, the funny thing about the grief is the grief didn't come out until after my awakening. Obviously, it's going to come out then, right? It didn't come out for years later. So he dies is like maybe 2-3 years later. Now I'm dealing with grief. So things can stay in the body for a very long time. I mean, I was dealing with emotional stuff when I was 2 years old and dealing with that in my 30s. It just like, it holds, right? So it holds on and it stays with us until we finally deal with it. So I do remember this specifically. I'll never forget this date, because this date is also my clean date of not using drugs and whatnot. So July 17th, 2010 is the day that I had the NDE, the day that I died, and the day I kind of see as like I was reborn as well. And the day that I kind of have my years as far as without alcohol and drugs, which is now like 12 years or something like that. So I always hold notice to this date. And that day there was no turning around. There was no coming back. I'm going to die, and that's going to be the end of it. There was nothing like in my mind of thinking, well, if I do it and I try and maybe I'll get help, because the help wasn't there. I've been going down this road with that for so long. It doesn't exist. And so I'm leaving, and that's the end of it. And I made that decision. And it's funny when I, make that decision, it's a weird decision to make. It really is an odd, interesting decision. When you make that decision, you're fully 100% with that decision. You now know that you have, I don't know, whatever time you decide, I guess. But when you take the ball, like when I took the pills, it was like, I have maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know. I knew that I had only certain time and no one was going to take me out of that. But I guess fortunately, I was found early enough to get that stuff pumped out as well. Because I never thought that was going to happen. I thought it wasn't going to be found. It was going to be, there's no turning me away. And then I remember everything just going dark. It just went from like being somewhere, being in reality. I was actually outside when this occurred. And I was there and I was looking at the sky and looking at reality, and all of a sudden just darkness. It just went dark. And I was like, oh, here it comes. Like, I knew consciously when I seen everything kind of trickle down that was the moment. It's a very surreal thing. And, kind of going back to suicide, I never really touched on this, but I do want to touch on this because no one really talks about suicide. They say that suicide is like the coward's way out. I just can't agree. Someone who's done this is not a coward. It takes a lot of bravery to go to the unknown, but also someone that does that, the level of pain, this is not a decision that's taken that day. So this decision is made over years, some months, years. Like for me, this was leading up as a decision that finally made its final descent. And so like the pain, if someone is, committing suicide, by the way, just my cousin 2 months ago did the same. She just committed suicide. But it takes time. There's this pain, and it's so bad that you would rather face the unknown. You would rather face darkness than face another day. So that's what I'm saying. Like suicide is something that is so painful that you would rather just throw yourself in the midst of, for me, hell. Because like I never grew up with a belief around, religious or nothing like that. But I did feel like there's a good chance I could be going to hell. Like if hell is real, I'm going. Although I didn't make it to hell until I came back and I had to deal with all my shit, because that to me was more hell than anything I could have ever imagined. So I guess what I say about heaven or hell is, I think hell is made is our own making, if you will. Like hell can be created from ourselves. Heaven is our own making hell. So I created a hell for myself on earth, and then I've been able to create a heaven for myself on earth, which is the life I lead today. It is like so different from the life I had, but that's because of the work I put in, and also just, I guess, the one thing leading to another, allowing me to do the work too. I didn't know that change could happen back in the day when I was, like that way. It was this is who you are. These are the cards that are laid. Change is not something that you could have. Like, I didn't know that someone can literally alter their life to that degree. I didn't realize that was possible. So, that's something I would say as a message to anyone who wants to change or thinks it's too much or think you can't, is that it can be. Like, you can alter yourself and envision yourself, whatever you believe to be true for yourself, as long as you put in the work. So that's kind of like on that idea. So back to it's going dark now. The next thing now I remember is just floating, and that idea that people say, oh, you're floating above your body. That's absolutely true. That's exactly what happened to me. I was just floating above my body, and I was watching paramedics working on me. And then from there, it was so obvious that I was dead, but not. So it was like, wow, okay, so death doesn't exist in my mind anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. I'm dead, but I'm not. But more than that, I'm not even I'm not even alive. Like, when I was on Earth, it didn't feel like I was alive. It felt like the dead state. So I now feel more alive, is what I'm trying to say, when I'm dead than when I'm alive. I feel so much more alive. I feel like I'm in my true state. And this is where everything kind of connected for me. So time and space obviously didn't exist, although it was a specific linear amount of events, the sequences that were happening. So events, we'll say my life was rolling out in a line, but that line was happening simultaneously. It's very hard to explain if you don't know what I'm saying. So, but it is like flashing one at a time, but very at the same time. And I'm seeing my life, this life review thing again, the life thing, oh, when we die, we can get a life review, absolutely happened to me. These things are just so like weird to me, because I didn't think that, we kind of nailed it, thinking, oh, we die and we get a life review. And so that just happened. And I'm seeing the things. I'm not viewing my life like a movie, though. I mean, kind of, but I'm viewing it more through emotions and how I'm harming people or benefiting them. And as far as benefiting people, yeah, not so much, right? I harmed more people than I did benefit, but there were some benefits for sure, or lessons. So I was like this character that would bring up challenges in people or challenge them. From my point of view, it's like I'm doing them harm, but from their point of view, I'm actually a part of service for them, because I'm bringing to them a challenge that they can take from or learn from. So I'm seeing, though, and feeling how people are being affected by me, and seeing that, oh, life was all about connections and bettering my life too. It's about growth and facing the challenges that are set in my path, that I set there as well. I put them there to overcome, but I couldn't see that. We can't see that. And the challenges come around and around. They just have a different face. That's how we know they're there for us to overcome, because we all get these things that come around and around, and we always kind of like interact with it. But for me now, I just do the opposite. Like, whatever I did before, I now do the opposite, and I have better luck with defeating that challenge. And as you like work through a challenge, you grow. So you will get a growth and expansion happens, and then you heal as well. And you continue on like a video game, like you are going to the next level of experience, and you'll go through this experience. It'll be challenging. And then the next challenge will even be harder. And then you're more equipped for it. And then you move on. So you are in this growth phase. But if you are stuck somewhere where you're not defeating your challenges, you're not growing, therefore you're not maturing, you're not expanding, you're kind of stuck. And even though the physical body is growing around you, your soul is still stuck at that level, and it can't progress on. So life is a progression of challenges and healing and connections, and also treating others. That idea, that golden rule. Yeah.
So let's hear, I want you to share with us the experience of meeting up with your brother, and this whole thing of being able to look at your life with him, and kind of what you realized when you were looking at your life with your brother. You're both kind of reviewing it together in terms of the challenges and that you'd set up for yourself, and how you did or did not meet those challenges before.
So yeah, sure. My brother came up towards me, and it was obvious it was him, but he's the same thing. So it's not like he had that same attitude, like, way to go, quite the journey. He's got this bubbly way about him, and it's like he was just waiting for me. And just that reunion, we had a big hug, of course. Someone asked me if it was physical or whatever. I can't describe it. It feels like you're touching and physical, but you're not. you're still energetic. So there's no real, but it is, you can feel it. So it's felt in an energy way, not a physical way, but it is still kind of felt physically. Everything out there is so contradictory and so odd and hard to explain, I would say. But I guess I'm articulating well enough, I guess. It's all kind of contradictions and paradoxes and opposites in some regard as far as how it feels. My brother, he was basically just saying, way to go, quite the journey. He's got his own attitude. He wanted me to follow him, and we went into this big room, this big, bright white room. And this is where I kind of met these three beings. And these three beings were saying, we want you to go back. You have a life mission. Now, when I came back, I felt coerced. I felt like, oh, they tricked me. That was one thing that especially through the sufferings, like they tricked me back into this hellhole. Like I was like, I can't believe they tricked me. And I felt like I was so manipulated by them. But I also at the soul level knew to come back. But I still feel like those bastards tricked me into doing this. Because like Jason, he got to go away. He got to leave for good. Why wasn't he brought back? It's like, oh, you're allowed to stay, but I can't. So there's a certain theme. There's a certain job. And I always felt like when I went back to when I was a kid, my life felt like a mission or a job more than it felt like a life to enjoy or experience or, this family and kids and wife and career. That was not, it's never been for me. I've never been that way. So I feel like that just kind of played off in it. So I have a certain mission to do. Yeah. Did you have a question, Kat?
The one thing, and not because I'm not trying to pour salt in the wounds, but the thing that was standing out to me with the other conversation I listened with you was how you had seen every challenge. Because when we come into these incarnations, we set up challenges for ourselves, right? Like we come into these incarnations saying, okay, I'm going to work on this time, this thing, this time, this other thing. I'm going to have Linda, who's my ally. She's really going to support me and teach me. I'm going to have this other person who's really going to be my reverse teacher and challenge me in ways that piss me off, but force me to grow and move deeper into love. And so we have these things that we'll set up for ourselves, including health challenges and whatnot. So my understanding is that when you're looking at your life, you're like, wow, every challenge I set up for myself, I completely failed that. And you and your brother were kind of laughing about it, in a way that it was like shaking your head, hitting yourself in the head, being like, wow, that's amazing. I really tripped over each one. And I just wanted to get your feedback on that now, because now you're in a position where you've overcome so much. So I guess I'm looking for the compare and contrast on that.
Definitely the thing of failing every single one was at that point funny, at that point kind of humorous. Oh my God, I can't believe I failed every goddamn challenge. I mean, and the reality was it wasn't even one. That's the thing. It wasn't even, I got one right. But now coming back, these have all obviously come back in my life, every challenge. But I think now that it was so highlighted in that way, it's easier to see them. So I can see them because I've seen them. So if you don't know what your challenges are, you're just kind of blindly going through your life and you're just kind of like, well, is this one? I don't know. Like my thing would be if it comes around and around, then it is. But now I know what they are. I know what I came here to do. So when they came, I'm like, okay, this is simple. I need to do the opposite, because if I failed, the opposite would be a pass. And that is true to some extent, because the opposite did work better. But it wasn't just about acting in the opposite way. It was about learning whatever had to come from there as well. So beating the challenge and then taking from it the lesson that was required to take from it is like the whole challenge in a nut. It's like taking the whole challenge. So if you kind of beat the challenge, I guess, or you pass the challenge, that's one aspect and you can move on. But if you don't truly gain the lesson in there, then you don't really truly beat the challenge. I mean, it's still kind of there. They keep coming around. You're like, well, what's the lesson? Because there's the ones where I've done this. I did it differently. I'm not the same way. I've changed. Why does it keep coming around? And it wasn't until I realized, oh, what's the lesson? Not the action, but the lesson. What was it you're supposed to gain out of this? And so, and the lesson goes to like not doing it again. How can it benefit you? Your perception of reality. Because it's like this mind game of always twisting your definitions and beliefs due to the experiences. So my life was filled with negativity. 99% of my life was bad stuff. And I've now been able to take those bad things and twist them in my mind and say, no, that was a positive thing now. And I got a positive effect out of it now that I've defined a positive idea to it. And so now I'm walking around with a very horrible traumas, if you will, abuses, all kinds of stuff. And I'm looking at them positively and how they benefited me, not how they're taking me out and weakening me and making me more of a victim, which did before my NDE. That's what I was. I was the biggest victim on the planet, just because everything was negative. Oh, look at what's happening to me, not look at what I'm causing for myself, as I was in full control of the effects that are coming because I'm causing them. You know, we all play these different roles. I love how you brought up the fact that certain people will come in your life to challenge you in different ways, or your family and friends, and they'll say this and they'll say that, and they'll do this, and it's about us gaining something. And I did that to a lot of my friends, like would do things like steal from them or lie to them, or all these things where I'd challenge them. And I do still feel like, oh man, I was a big lesson to you. I'm not trying to, eliminate my responsibility to that, but I was a big lesson. It's like, there's a lesson there for you. And they can get it or not. That's the thing. It's up to us whether we pull from it or don't. Or they can be like, oh, what an asshole. I can't believe this person did this to me, and walk around all miserable. So every person I meet or every challenge I meet is now an opportunity, where before it wasn't. It was an opportunity to be a victim, but now it's an opportunity for growth. And I look at my life like that now through that lens.
Yeah, and I'll be using that moving forward, when I'll be like, Linda, look, I'm being an asshole to help you. I hope that you can
I knew it.
appreciate
I knew
what
it.
a jerk I am right now. Thank you. I'm a blessing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll do it too. Don't worry. Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm rude to that waiter for his benefit. No, JK. So I want to get into the transition between then you coming back into your body and being like, oh crap, all my pain is still in my body. Yay. And then, moving into your Kundalini awakening. Before we do that though, I want the ladies to have a chance to ask questions.
Yeah,
so Miss Linda, hop in.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely have one, because I feel very different because I've also had my NDEs, but when I hear you, I can feel you watching yourself without judgment. Like you say, oh wow, I did that, but it's not this, oh, idiot.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So it gives you a complete different perspective, right? And am I right with that? And how you?
Yeah. I realize we hear a lot about, and a lot of people don't like this when I say this, but it is what it is. At least it was for me. I didn't feel judgment. It was like I was the judge, jury, prosecutor, defense, all in one aspect. I was the only judge of my life. There was not some high authority, pointing fingers down at me saying, you did wrong. That didn't occur. So another thing too, the NDEs, all my experiences, I guess, just we move forward for me is, it belongs to me. So everything that happened to me is my truth for me. And I'm sharing that truth. So I'm not saying anything needs to be blanketly believed or anything, because a lot of people have their beliefs around, especially when it comes to topics like life and death, or, judgment, or all these things. So for me, this is what happened to me. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be judged when you leave. I don't know. I'm not you. I don't know how that's going to work out for you. I know just for me, there was none of that. And no, when I was looking down, like you said, the whole, oh, I did everything wrong. It was more of a joke because we're coming from a different perspective. It was just like, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah. And you mentioned, how heavy it felt when you came back down, and how you felt like you were suckered. Did you feel homesick? Because I felt homesick. I felt really homesick.
Yeah, that idea of being forced.
Yeah, it's like how many years? At least 20 years since I've done it, and I still feel homesick.
Yeah, to me, it felt like my true natural life state. And you're going to take me away from that and put me into this dead state of slowed down time and space, slow down spirit, heavy, dense body of pain. Because not just like, I'm not sure if I talked about, because, we talked about the emotional pain, the mental pain, but I also have very bad physical pain. I had broken both of my heels years back. So I have crushed heels, and I had pins and plates and surgery for that. And I had broken an ankle, and I had smashed my teeth. And I've had really bad physical stuff. So not only am I dealing with that physical pain again, and from not having it is one, but not having it and then having it again is like, oh, why did you do that to me? Like, I didn't want to feel that for that time, because then you gave me relief in such a way, and now you just gave it back. That's why the whole, this whole, oh, I am in hell. I'm definitely my own form of hell. When I came back, it was hell. I don't know any way to describe it. It was given an opportunity, I feel like, to go through the death, the valley of the death, whatever you call it, like that valley of whatever, the forest of hell, whatever you want to call it. I had to go through this thing for over a decade of time, and it was getting through it, and it was not giving up. And as I went forward through it, though, something magical happened. Over time, I started to enlighten. I started to drop the heaviness. I started to get better. I started to heal. I started to grow. I started to become different. I started to change. And I'm seeing this transformation slowly happen over time. And it's just morphing me into this very strong, powerful, healthy, empowered, healed man. That's really how I'm seeing it. Now I'm at the very edge of this forest. So I'm not out of the woods. I'm on the edge of it. I'm at the very end where I can be like, hey, the forest is right here, but there's this kind of homeland right in front of me. So I still have a ways. I'm not full. I'm not done. I'm definitely grounded a lot more. I'm a lot more balanced. I'm a lot more put together, but there's still some things. And maybe that will always kind of be. Maybe there'll never be I don't ever think there'd be a completion, but life will be not so painful, at least. At least it'll be just life without the pain wrapped up in it so badly. I still have pain every day, especially with my physical stuff, but it's not so crazily like emotional or mental, or I'm being attacked by everyone for what I'm going through. That was really hard.
Yeah, I'd say that now you're being led into a much greater community where you'll be recognized and valued and celebrated for who you are. And that isolation, that long trek through the wilderness all alone is over. So I want, Miss Angela, did you have any questions before we go into to Mr. Jeff's movement from coming back to his body and into his Kundalini awakening?
Yeah, I do. So I listening to the story, it reminds me of an interview I just saw recently where they talked about soul families, soul groups, and how we come into different families and there may or may not be a resonance. And when you mentioned in the beginning that you came into your family and you didn't want to be here, like you really connected with your brother, it was almost like you were placed in a family in order to experience everything that you've experienced, in order to transmute what's been in the family DNA, what's been in the lineage. And so that was really, really very apparent. And the reason you came back is because that was your decision. That was your plan from the very beginning, was to experience the contrast, the extreme levels of contrast that you've experienced over your life, and bring that into the lineage in order to transmute everything that was in that lineage. And so my question to you is how you think the darkness has been of benefit to you in your life overall? Because a lot of times in this community, we focus so much on the light, and experiencing the light. How has the darkness helped you to understand the light and understand the value of what the light brings? Because in order to see the light, you have to know what the darkness is in order to be able to decipher it. And given the level of extreme that you experienced as far as the darkness goes, how has it played with you and how you interact with your family, interact with the people around you, and the way you've been able to just radiate beingness in that understanding?
Yeah, thanks, Angela. That's a great question, because we don't talk about darkness enough. And honestly, darkness is the product of why I am who I am today. So I'm not about dark being evil and bad. It's about the experience of duality, and one doesn't fit without the other. So darkness for me, and this is something I don't think ever really talked about to people. So it's something I've had to myself, but this is what it did to me. The darkness expanded it. Okay, if you're like a cup, I think they try to put an analogy. If you're a cup, because there was so much darkness, this cup was expanded to be a big cup. So the more darkness I took on, the bigger this cup began. Now, this is what's amazing about the darkness, is because now it expanded this cup so big. When I released it all, there's all that room for light where there wouldn't be before. So consciousness and light has now filled that larger cup, which could never be so big without the darkness expanding it and making the cup bigger. It's the only way I can really put it to give that example, but that's exactly what it was. That much darkness equaled that much light, but even more because darkness was heavy. So when you fill it with light, it even adds more volume to the cup because it's not as dense, and it just blew. That's the idea of this light and expansion, and that's how the darkness can benefit one. And I always say, like, if you are living your life so dark, you have an advantage. You have an advantage, and here's the advantage. You act like a slingshot. When you finally let go, you have that much more power, that much more effort, that much more speed and velocity that you can shoot out on the other side if you are pulled back that low. Because it's like pulling back. You just got to let go and it will fly. So that's like me. It was like pulling back on an arrow so bad, like so it can't be pulled back anymore, right? That rock bottom for me was death. That was my rock bottom. It can't go back any further. And then now it's gone, and it is still flying. So at first it was like intense speed of what is going on. It's hard to relate or talk, or like when it first, like the first few years, especially, like you talk about, you add in, get the Kundalini, but you add in the Kundalini and the UFO stuff on top of the NDE. And it took my energy to a place that I couldn't ground for 7 years. Probably I was in the clouds. I could not find a place to ground. I didn't fit in the earth. I couldn't function. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't have relationships. I mean, I was just a total wreck. But I knew that. I was smart enough to know, okay, give me enough time and I'll work this out, hopefully. Or this is gonna be real bad. I'll just be a crazy person my whole life. But so I think that answers the darkness. Does that answer what you're talking about? When it comes to the family too, that's an interesting dynamic. My family were Italian, and there's this interesting our ancestry, I feel like, goes back to the Italian mafia. And there's connections to it as well. Like there's hints towards that in my family line. And so there's all this stuff. What happened in 1 year span, two of my uncles, one of my auntie got cancer, and my grandmother died. So 4 cancer in 1 year, and 3 of them died, and 1 survived. And in that same time too, I was hit with my NDE. So the DNA line was hit. They did something, and that's something I don't know a lot about. I don't understand that, but I felt like this is in the DNA. Like, you can't have all these people getting hit with cancer and getting sick and dying. And like, it just didn't make any sense to me. So something was going on where I feel like we're repairing the line. And you talk about that line. Absolutely. That is so important when it comes to stuff, because there is a line connection, a line healing that has been working out through the family. And my mother, bless her soul, honestly, bless her soul, she was my greatest challenge. She really is my greatest challenge, because she put up the most fight. She put up the most resistance on me than anyone. And I always kind of say, well, no matter what anyone says to me, I can always go back to the idea that my mother has said worse. So what you say means nothing to me. And that's really what it comes down to. I feel like I'm being groomed and prepped for a life in the future that's going to get a lot of backlash. I feel like my words, my teaching, my knowledge I'm just going to get a lot of backlash, because the preparing me has been backlash, this building me, this thick-skinned, tough buildup. And I know what I'm here to do, and I can see how it's going to piss off a lot of people. And so I'm kind of like preparing for this, and have been prepared as well.
Tremendous. Miss Jillian, did you want to add something?
Well, I do have a question. I mean, when you took the pills and you were in the process of dying and the blackness was coming in, and even when you came out of your body and you were watching yourself with the paramedics, was there ever a point during that process that you had a bit of regret, like that you, even a tiny bit, that what you were doing wasn't what you wanted to do? Or was it just, no, I'm done, this is it?
Yeah,
Goodbye.
that's interesting. Oh my God, that's good. No. When it was coming in, like the darkness was kind of trickling in, very weird. It was like, finally. So there was no real regret. Yeah, I mean, I maybe thought like I get the question. That's a great one, because I mean, yeah, maybe that would be there, but I was just so motivated to leave. It was such a motivation I had. It's going to be like a contract, a soul agreement that I was going to do this and then come back with and change it. And I think that this transformation of self is the theme chosen on a higher level. And maybe the NDE was a part of that blueprint was a part of that plan. I don't know that. When I was outside, I did see blueprint stuff, but I never saw the death being a part of it. But I guess could have been like, well, it's a part of it. I don't know, but it was like I was destined, and I was meant to do that. There was like a destiny felt to it, or at least destiny was overridden with my motivation and stubbornness to kill myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
You. I just love that we have these ladies that can give so much reflection and expand this conversation. It makes it so rich.
It does. Like I said, the questions are something that I never really, like I said, I don't get these questions. So it's really great to, oh, that's a good one. I love that. Or it gets me thinking, I'm like, I never thought of that or thought of it that way. That's why sharing a story with other people is really good. It just hits me back with all these great, just new ways of looking at my own life, my own past. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this being a salon. And by salon, yes, you're having a third eye makeover. That's happening. But salon meaning that, like, back in the day, there were artist salons where artists would hang out and they'd show their work to each other. And so this is a psychic salon. It's a third eye salon where we're sharing our hearts and our journeys with each other. And it's a safe space to do that. And, that's the gift of this community, and it only thrives and lives because of the people that are part of it. So I'm just very excited that you're part of it. My heart just goes around you in circles, Jeff, whenever I connect to you, because I just have so much compassion for your mission and everything you come to. And so let's go deeper into your pain.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about your experience of coming back into your body, and then what was the gap between you coming back from your NDE and your Kundalini awakening? What was the time gap? And then what was your experience with that?
A little over a year. So 2012 2011 to the end of 2011 was the Kundalini experience, and it was June or July 2010. July 17th, 2010 what would that be? Over a year, just over a year for the Kundalini. When I came back, I was handcuffed to a hospital bed. That was my coming back into this world. That was what I got for doing what I did, I guess. I was handcuffed to a hospital bed, and I had all that pain. And I knew, you bastards, you tricked me. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad. But I knew I had this idea of, okay, I know what I need to do, but this is going to suck. And the reality of how slow it was from where it was, because it's so lightning speed fast, not even time. It's just so now. It's like, it's so like things are so quick out there. You could basically, whatever you want, you can get instantly through thought. It's like you think it, boom, it's there. It's like, it's so fast. And here I'm like, oh, this is going to take years. This is going to be a hard. Now, here's the thing. I didn't think it was going to be this painful. I mean, I guess I had no clue. I honestly didn't have no clue about what was going to happen. So maybe that was, that's okay. I had this. That's interesting. That's an interesting experience. But I had no clue about Kundalini, whatever. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about ET stuff. I didn't know. That's where it gets wild. So bring it into the Kundalini. Yeah, it was November. I don't know. I can look it up because it was on the full moon of November. Full moon in Taurus, which is another interesting thing. So this Kundalini experience took on a very ritualistic idea with having intercourse with my girlfriend at the time. So it was I didn't know it was like, but it was the full moon happening. The full moon was in my sun sign of Taurus. She was her sun was oppositing my sun. It was like this perfect union on astrology. It was this perfect union of opposites. She's a Scorpio, I'm Taurus. Moon's in my sun, sun's in her sign. It's actually her birthday. And so it's this perfect union of full moon, sun thing going on, and the time and the union. And also there was this with her, the first woman I ever felt love for, the first. And so my heart, for the first time, I think in my life, was open. So because my heart was open to her, hers to mine, there was so there's this aspect of a ritual with it. And looking back, I was like, holy shit, there was a real thing here that played off with a ritual. And I just didn't know. It just kind of happened. Like, how weird, but not weird, but yes. And so it started in my root chakra. It started in there, and I just felt this pressure. It was just an energy. It started off with a pressure there, and in my lower back, there was this very powerful, strong pressure. And it felt like I needed to bend my back over and do like this N shape with my body all the time, because I felt like energy was trying to go up and I didn't know how to relieve it. And there was all this pressure. And then I felt this energy now spinning in my bottom chakra, my bottom area. At the time, I didn't know what chakras were. So, it's like I learned all this stuff after, and I really did learn it because I want to know what the hell was going on. And I deep dove into this stuff. And then I figured out. And so it was spinning. And then this pressure was relieved. Now, like I said, there was months. He said like 3 months. This Kundalini thing is not, it's ongoing. So the 3-month period that I talk about more or less is for it to reach the top. But it's always pumping up and down. Ever since it started pumping, it's continued to pump. It's just less and less. As it goes up and down, it's clearing off less energy. So the more it goes up, the easier it comes up now. It's like the energy's been cleared. And so with the Kundalini, my Kundalini experience specifically was as it went to a certain level, as the pressure released and it moved up and it stopped, there was like a life lesson, challenge, maturity that needed to be taken for it to move up again. So I hear a lot of Kundalini stuff, and I think everyone has their own different take on it, or they will go through their own different thing. Me was very much like, it wasn't like this kind of automatic or didn't happen at once thing. It was a very long, drawn out maturity thing that I had to mature to the levels, right? I had to mature and like the next level. When it hit the third eye, oh my fuck. I mean, it was just oh man, it was bad. So yeah, it just blew everything. Like, so you talk about belief. So what it did really, I think the greatest way to put it was it completely swung open my subconscious mind to the conscious mind. It floodgated conscious memories into the conscious. And then it also, the third eye thing is very, very interesting because it opened me up to realms that were similar to when I died. It woke me up to other dimensions of reality. It opened me up to other parallel earth realities, other time frames, the future, the past. I started to see into so much stuff that I'm like, shut it off. I don't tell people I need it off. I don't know what to do. This is causing me massive problems. It's horrible. And no one ever knew how to shut it off. I didn't know. So it just didn't shut off. It just stayed on. And it was for a long time. I'd have to say years before I learned how to properly attune it and then open and close or adjust it so that I could live my life. There was an integration process that had to happen with me seeing the future, the past, and the present all at once. So, I had to learn. It just wasn't known to me. I had to figure it out. Now, here's the thing too. I didn't have anyone to learn from either. I didn't have that. There was no one I felt like, or no one I knew at the time that could have helped me with it. And I don't think very few people have been gone through something like that. So I don't know how they could have helped me. I feel like I had to go through all this alone so that I could help people anyway. So I could kind of go through all the pitfalls and then be there for others. Yeah, Angie?
Yeah, I think this is funny because I don't think it's something you can teach because
No.
it's so individual. It's so personal to the individual and how they come into awareness of themselves that you couldn't possibly teach it because it's so different. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, everyone has their own unique experience with the Kundalini awakening. That was mine. And I've listened to a lot and I haven't found one like mine. So when I talk, I just haven't heard it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know. That wasn't mine. That wasn't my experience. Mine was so almost, like I said, extreme. It's like this extreme shit again. And then, so having to deal with that, when it comes to psychic abilities, that's another thing. It just open up these channels to things that were just hard to learn. I talked about the integration and learning to, like, I go into Costco, I couldn't be there because I'm literally just now invested in everyone's emotions. I can hear their thoughts. I can feel their shit. I'm like, I got to get the hell out of here. I got to leave now. I cannot be in here. It just drove me nuts and it was hard. And now, looking back with all this now being okay, like I'm good. I have learned to integrate. I've learned to balance. I've learned to harmonize. I've learned to go through this. So when I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I mean, that's interesting. It's different. So it's easier to say, oh, well, but in the time it was hell. It was really bad. You got to understand too. I couldn't make money either because I couldn't work. So everyone was on me because you need to get a job. It's like, why don't you give me a fucking break? Why don't you shut up? Like, leave me alone. Like, leave me alone. Like, why don't you be of help, not of what you're doing? like, you're not even helping. Why don't you just help? Like, no one understood what I was going through. So I couldn't even if I spoke it and tried to explain it, then now the whole crazy card comes out. Oh, you're just crazy. You need help. You need to go see a doctor. You need this. And I was like, no, that's not the help I need. It was really hard. It really was. And that I'm glad it's over. I really am glad. So that's kind of the Kundalini thing, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to say in terms of your lessons, in terms of what came up. But I wanted to see, I know Miss Jillian was unmuted herself, which is my sign that she wanted to ask something. And since she's Canadian polite, and so she's not going to interrupt like I do. So what did you want to reflect on, Jillian? Because you had your own amazing Kundalini awakening.
Yeah, and it was just interesting hearing how Jeff's happened. Mine was very instant. Like it was, but it was similar in a way to how Jeff explains it. Mine basically blew through my chakras at once.
Yeah.
And it was a whole, a one-time integrated experience. But then I did have the movement up and down of the energy. But it was after this happened, I had to work to open all of these chakras more for myself so that it had the room to go up and down. But it had, like Jeff said, he would have to work on specific things for the specific chakras, and then it would pass through, then it would go through. Mine was more of an experience where it went through, but then it would constantly get stuck until I worked on these things.
Yeah, I just probably had more stuff to work out than you. Because you know what I mean? If it was always sticking, or you just had a lot less to go through probably. So it goes a lot. Because I think it probably could have went up on me if it wasn't so cluttered, I guess, with everything. Yeah. So it makes sense that you could have it quicker, right? It makes sense that could play out. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like everyone's going to be different. That's cool though.
Yeah.
And did it go through? Sorry.
No,
did it
go
happen?
ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Jilly, did it happen? Is it consistently still moving up and down a little bit? It's just lighter now. It's just easier to deal with.
Not as much as it did. I mean, it did for a good 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And then it kind of just, the more that I worked on myself and the more that I worked, on my inner system, the things, clearing things around me, then it stopped kind of doing that energetic up and down, but it's still there. Like once you have a Kundalini awakening, it's always there. There's always things, like it brings everything up for you to look at and deal with, or else it's just very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But as far as the movement, it's
interesting.
Not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the channel just widens is what really happens, and you just less sensitive to the movement as it flows. Everything kind of grow, and as you expand in consciousness, that channel through which the energy flows to the earth and back, it just becomes bigger. You become a bigger conduit. Yeah.
And there's even energy too above. So like there's this. I know we got the main, but I was feeling energy above the head too. So it was like shooting out. It's like I had an invisible antenna attached to my head, and I could feel it going up as well. So I don't know how far that goes or whatever. I just know that there was like an antenna thing going on with me. It was pretty wild.
I was just going to say mine was completely different. Mine literally was so smooth and easy that it took listening to Jillian on this show describing the symptoms afterwards for me to understand, that's what happened. Yeah. Because mine happened literally watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon in a theater.
Something activated you, eh? Your inner
goddess. That literally while I'm sitting in the theater just went, and when I came home, everything was it was at night. I could see everything. There was light everywhere. I could see the energy in all the trees. It didn't feel like I was touching the ground. And it was like, that was one awesome movie.
Yeah. Wow. That changed. That transcended.
Damn, that was a good movie.
Yeah. It's wild. And I think for me, it's because there's so much dark, heavy energy is why everything was so much. That's all. There's so much to remove, so much to clear. And
I think I ended up, because mine was so delayed after my return, that I had to work through a lot of that stuff before I had mine. So I think that was the difference is that I, like you, I had a lot of shit to work out.
Yeah.
I still
Yeah.
do, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like you, I still have a lot to work out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I just remember when she was talking on the show, it's like, holy shit, that's what I had that.
Wild.
So, Mr. Jeff, I wanted to find out, just could you give us some examples, and then we'll kind of move forward into the work that you're doing now. What are some of the examples of when the Kundalini was going through your chakras? Because it wouldn't move from the root chakra until you had learned to clear some primary lesson in the root chakra. Then to be like, okay, you got that one. Now we'll move up to the sex chakra. Okay,
Yeah.
you got that one. But each one was almost like, I mean, my sense of it was like one triathlon after another through each chakras, as you had to like encompass the teaching and the releasing and the surrender and overcoming the challenge. What's your
A lot
take
of
on
it had to do with gaining power that I guess I would say I had given away in myself, or developing things like self-worth, confidence, things on that nature, standing up for myself, not allowed, putting boundaries around me, you know, things, saying no, not being so nice all the time, creating a balance. It all depended on where it was, what the challenge was, you know, being more even compassionate or learning to be more soft with people would allow for things to move as well. So it all played out in what I was doing outside of me, and it would start shifting. I'm like, oh, it is playing to this idea of my growth. It's not good. It's like, it's not going to move unless I get it. It's like, for me, the idea of having my third eye open was I was rewarded with that beautiful gift for the work that had been done. It's like, you're not going to get it unless you achieve or do through the work, or set yourself up, take your power back. Here's what you need to do. And you're not going to get this gift of your opening of your third eye, crown chakra, all these chakras, opening of the heart, unless you do it. So for me, it was a reward-based system, and I had to work it out. That's, you know, basically what it's about. And like I said, everyone it went was a different challenge. For me, my throat, for example, was about, you know, not over speaking, not cutting people off, being more gentle, not being so cutthroaty, because I can be very harsh with my words, learning to soften my words, you know, things like this were just like, it's just so many. That's the thing. There's so many things. And I had to learn as I went through. And I would feel, if I would do something like was cutting someone down, I could feel it in my throat, like, oh, that's it. I need to not be like that. And then as I softened, so with the energy would soften, it would start to move, it would start to spin. When it started spinning and it started to build pressure, I knew it was ready to blow. So I was prepared for that too, because that's what it did. It would spin, pressurize, and then it would release. The releasing would be crazy, because it would feel, there'd be a lot of like almost pleasure with it. Not pleasure, but pleasure because it was so pressurized that it would relieve the pressure, and then there'd be pleasure that went with it. And then the energy would move, which would help me feel better. Because it was like always, I couldn't sleep sometimes. Like I remember in my stomach, it got so built up, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't move. I felt like there was something, like I was pregnant with like a demon in my belly. It was so bad. It just wasn't moving. It was building and building, and eventually it blew. Eventually it went off, and I was like, oh, thank God. That one was, though, probably the craziest one. I'll bring that in, is when my stomach blew was the most extreme one. I found myself falling to the ground while crying and laughing at the same time. And it was like a surreal, like, what is wrong with me? What is happening to me? I don't even understand this. Like, you're crying and laughing and you're on the ground. Like, I had no energy to stand. It was like breaking down. If someone saw that, thank God they didn't, they'd be like, you need help. It's like, there's something seriously wrong with you. But that's like what the energy does. Yeah, Angela.
Yeah, it's almost like you said the word pleasure, and I can relate to that, because it's almost like it's orgasmic, but it's going up.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
release. It's going up the channel, up the channel, up the channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is like an orgasmic release.
It
energetic.
is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and talking about it being, you know, like being a demon in your belly, I think that's such a great analogy. Like I'm going to give birth to a demon. What's happening? I don't even have a vagina. What's happening? So like, I'm just wondering, because to me, I relate that to your sexual energy. And I'm wondering, and I also don't want to, get up in your business, but I'm just wondering if there was like what the
Yeah.
lesson was that allowed you to say, okay, this can finally pass through. Was there some forgiveness for yourself in your sex chakra? Was there some, like, what was the thing that allowed the birth to happen and for you to realize it was a light baby and not a demon?
Yeah, well, the sexual thing for me with this partner, I was the first time I think I cared about someone enough. So that kind of ignited that. So when it comes to that, now there wasn't, after that, another thing too, this changed my sex life completely. It's now forever changed. Like I can't have sex for just the fact of having sex anymore. I need to be with someone intimately. I need to like know them, connect with them. I need to like love them. There needs to be some like a connection there. Or to me, it almost feels dirty. It almost feels like I don't want this. Like I would, and before I would just, if someone had a heartbeat, like I would be like on it. It didn't take much. It's like I was just so bad. I was like, yeah, if you're a woman and your heart's beating, I'm good to go. Now, not even close. It's something that is actually very sacred or very pure. It's something that I need to vet, if you will. Like I can't just with anyone. It's not like that. It has to be someone special, because it's like I'm giving myself, a part of myself, to someone now where before it didn't matter, but now it matters big time. Like there's something now. So it's changed me forever in a good way, in a really good way for sure. It's definitely changed or minimized my sex life, because now there is that component to it, which is good. And I needed that. But yeah, so that was what it was like, that real love, feeling that for the first time is what started all this. And the ritual thing, I guess.
But it started it. But what was the thing? Because you're saying like with the throat chakra, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, you can come through the throat chakra because I've become softer and I've let people speak and I've not been so cutting with my words.
Yeah.
So what was the shift with the belly? What was the thing that allowed it? What was the thing that you got? Or are you may not be aware of it, but what if there was a thing that you got that was like, okay, he stopped doing that bullshit thing. The energy can go up.
Actually, so the belly thing was actually a tap under the eyes. As oddly as that sounds, it was a tap under the eyes like this, and then boom. So I don't know if you ever heard about
yourself. Yeah, you physically tapped yourself, and that.
Yeah, I physically tapped myself under my eyes. I was looking at these things about, because I didn't know what's going on with this energy. That was the only time that I ever worked with a tapping thing. Though after that, it didn't really. But I don't know you know anything about the tapping. But I was looking into this energy buildup, and I just found some YouTube video about tapping. I was like, oh, I'll try it, because I could try anything at this point. Like I'm dying with this damn thing. And yeah, it released that tapping under the eye, released the stomach.
Do you know what the emotional component was that release was about? Was it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like this had to do with my inner confidence. This one had to do with my inner power, my inner what's the word? There's like my inner identity.
Self-esteem?
Identity. It was this identity fact that was like me, like, because my identity was completely gone. Like there was no real, like, I was an old way. I've had the NDE Kundalini. I'm now transitioning into a new way. I don't know who I am. And I had that for a long time, but learning through the identity stuff was big on that, and other ways too. But identity was one of the kind of fundamental, foundational things I had to build up on, was who am I now? What does it mean to have to be going through these? That helped. But the blowing out was the tapping.
Yeah, okay. It's like operating in your authenticity, learning to do that, operate in that.
Yeah, being more real, more true. That's why I'm like too real. I'm almost too real for people. They don't like it now. I'm not saying that people do like it, those that are tuned to it, but I'm almost too much. And they're like, get your realness away from me. Or if I meet people that are really fake, right? It's like these fake people, I can't stand to be around them. I can't. I just like, stop being fake. Stop it. Like I can see it. Stop. I don't like, just please don't be this way. It's just, you know what I mean? Like when you
what we love, all your realness. Your realness is
I know you love my realness.
We embrace it. It's yummy.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a comment on that, because I'm thinking about sexual abuse and how sexual abuse damages people in this fundamental way, where it impacts their personality, impacts how they live. And because that's your sex chakra, it's your personal identity. And one of the most, it's like one of the most insidious things you can do is, or you can have done to you. No judgment, because we're all in this together. We're all part of the oneness. But in terms of how someone's identity is damaged, the most severe way is through sexual abuse, because it distorts, tramples, subverts all these things of your authentic identity. And that's why sexual healing is so revolutionary, is because it finally allows you to come back into the true identity of who you've been beneath the damage and beneath the separation.
Yeah, the abuse creates a schism in your psyche on a
Yes.
very deep energetic level.
Yes.
And having to work through that shit for me absolutely has been a lot. And you're right, identity or power. There's this power that comes with, and then reclaiming. So yeah, like there's been a lot of stuff, obviously reclaiming power. If you were to give a theme to my awakening, that would be kind of a theme up there. That reclaiming power is a big part of the overall theme. But that through the sexual abuse too, yeah, it creates these crazy schisms. It also it almost passes on a sickness where if you've been abused, you are very inclined to be the abuser, almost even in a weird subconscious way as well. It does something. I don't know what exactly.
It's a
something
psychic
happens.
disease. It's like a psychic
Yeah.
disease that
It's
you're
weird.
spreading subconsciously. Hop in, Angela.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to say the sacral chakra is not just related to sex. It's about personal interactions, all personal interactions. So any level of abuse will have an impact on the expression that's allowed to be emanated from the sacral chakra. So working on all of that, it's all encompassing. It's not just related to sex and sexual abuse and sexual expression. Just wanted to
I think sex was the trigger to ignite it or to light it, but it was through the interactions and dealing with trauma. Trauma is a big thing that I'm working on, interactions. And I was like, just the first thing I did when I came back, honestly, the number one thing I did was go to people and tell them I'm sorry. That's the first thing I did to fix my shit. I want to go to you and be authentic, say I was an asshole. I'm owning my stuff and I'm sorry for what I did. I wasn't in the right mind space. I am going to do better. And my path is to do better. And that already helped. It helps kind of put together the pieces, the building blocks of identity, or the relational issues that I developed need to be repaired. And that was number one on my list of what to do. Go to the people I messed up and in some way, not to say sorry, but in some way make it up. Sorry is one of those things, like sorry and love are actions, not necessarily words. They're very much action based. I mean, you could say sorry, but if you keep doing it again, you're not sorry. Sorry is something you have to prove, in a sense, in my mind. And love is the same way. You have to prove that. You have to own that, not just say it, and then all of a sudden you're back to doing whatever. So for me, it was like the action of actually going out and not only saying sorry, but proving that to myself and doing different was a way to truly say I'm sorry. And just all these little things. I mean, I can go through a whole list of all the stuff I did. And it was very hard to even go. It was tough to go to these people. I was completely terrified over the reactions and stuff. I was actually surprised how well they took it, to be honest with you. So there's just a lot. When it comes to repairing, I mean, there's a lot you have to do. What a journey it was for me to fix all this, really. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a question from Elizabeth in our chat. She says, "Can you trigger your own Kundalini experience?" And I'll let you talk to that. I just want to say, be careful of that, because it is like playing with dynamite. And I think there's a divine time for everything. And Jeff's Kundalini experience happened in his divine time, and it was not fun. Like
no, that was bad.
It wasn't like yippity skippity, my chakras are aligned. And you'll hear that so many times with people who've had these experiences of waking up. They're like, I can't function anymore. I am no longer functionable on the planet. What am I doing? So, but I'll toss that question to you. Can you trigger your own Kundalini experience, Mr.
I think that the way that you can at least attempt to or go about it, my suggestion would be to start working on yourself. Because it's the working on yourself that will help the energy. So if a Kundalini experience is needed for you, by helping yourself, by working on yourself, by actually going in internally and doing this work, if it's needed, it will happen. If it's not, you continue to work and grow that way. Because the Kundalini is all about inner ascension, inner growth, inner expansion. So some might not need the Kundalini, some might need it. And also, you're right, I do think there's a timing, or I can't say, if you do this, it will happen. I'm not in that camp necessarily. I think there's a lot of people that try and it doesn't work because you're not ready. And if you're not going to be in a place where you're truly ready to grow, then it's not going to happen no matter what you try or do. So the growth and what I just said is the way that I would best go about this. But Kat, you're right. It is dangerous. And I advise to probably not try it. Like, that's my theory. Yeah. Don't bother. Just work on yourself though, because that's why you're here.
Yeah, and as easy as mine was, the aftermath was hard.
Yeah, it would be.
Sensory
Yeah.
overload. And
Yeah.
and it was almost like relearning how to function in the world and
Absolutely.
and thinking you're crazy. Because one day you're like this, and the next day I was like this. And it was like literally the world just shifted 3 inches to the right.
Yeah.
And I was having to re-navigate this different.
So in this kind of world of finance and money and needing to live your life and everything's this way, doing this is very challenging to get through. It's worth it in the end, yes, if you get through it, but a lot of people end up in bad places like mental hospitals if they can't make their way through properly, or they don't have the right support, or, I don't know, that it's just not, it could be a very devastating thing to your personal life in many ways. Or it could be an amazing thing and it could totally transform you and do what it did to me. But you have to sacrifice many years of your life then too as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a progressive thing. It's progressive.
Yeah.
Like, even though you have this awakening, which is really just this first moment of big awareness, right? It's a progressive thing as you go through layers of resolving your shit, like working through everything, working through it all. It's a progressive, incessant process that just keeps going.
Yeah. Like the spiritual awakening process is not butterflies and lollipops and sugar pops and all these wonderful things that the spiritual community likes to talk about. That I'd say there's 2 paths, the north and south path. There's one outside of you and there's one in you. The awakening within is very painful and can be very hard to navigate. And the outside one is also very painful and can be very tough to figure out as well. It's just not this, I think this spiritual or these psychic gifts and all these little things that you get along the way, these little trinkets and treasures you'll obtain along the way, is not what the true awakening is all about. For me, it was a real deprogramming to self. So I had to just deprogram back to who I truly am as a child and live from that space. But that is very painful and it's hard work, and it doesn't pay you money. It pays you in the awakening. So when it comes to this world, it's very work for money. If you're not working for money, then you're going to have a hard time with your family and friends too, like I did, because they're all like, you need to work. I'm like, I am working. I'm working harder than all of you. Just because I'm not getting a check doesn't mean I'm not working my ass off. Like, it's just so weird, right? And I always knew the money thing would fall after anyway. I always knew that I'd be positioned where I could take care of myself very well. And that's happening now. So, it's all about a timing. Yeah.
That's something that you saw in your NDE, is that you were given a glimpse of your future, and like, you're going to go back and you're going to do these things. And I'm wondering if you would speak to that, because I know that there's some very interesting things, even, how do I say this? You were able to see into the future, and it's actually not too far from now, where the world looks quite different and your position in it looks quite different. And I'm wondering if you'd speak to that.
Sure. I'll touch base, just kind of like on the surface of that. It does go a little deeper, but in my NDE, I saw a future that I didn't or couldn't necessarily, from that place in my life, would make no sense. That was something when I came back was like, what is this? Or how, the how of that made no sense. I mean, obviously now moving forward, I can see, I'm getting really close to that. But in the vision, in the holographic design, call it whatever you want, it's like this image surrounded me in my NDE. It was a world that was very different. And you can see, like, it wasn't like I can see the world visually. It was, though, felt in a way that things were changed. Technology, things were changed. Things were not what they were. This control was gone. It was removed, and there was a more of a free-flowing creative expansion, and people were, I feel, maybe in a sense of feeling at least more free in that regard. My life, for me specifically, my personal life was very big, but once again, the extremes go perfectly hand in hand. When I look at my past, how extreme it was in the dark, this was very extreme. Like I saw a castle. I saw me living in something that would be unnecessary, if you will. But it's not, the castle's not necessarily a home. There's assets, like a business. The castle represents a business, a school, my home, museum, and restaurant and hotel. It was a huge thing. It was a big multi-level business. And I'm kind of more into business as well. It makes a lot of sense. And it was there to educate. It was there to help. It was there in a big way to bring the world forward in some way through education and through knowledge of the past. And so I guess that's really what I can talk on that. I didn't, like I said, now as I'm getting closer to this idea, wow, what a journey from not having a clue to now having a clue and going, this is so possible, that it scares me. It scares me today on how big this is, because it's not small. And what I'm going to do is not a small thing. And I sometimes look and go, oh God, am I ready for this shit? Like, am I really ready for this position? I don't know if I'm ready for this. But I guess this is the buildup, right? I guess when it is, I will be ready. And so I saw myself at around the age of 50. Now I'm 39. There was a 10-year, from now 10 years, a lot changes in 10 years, a lot. So the world goes through a massive alteration. And I think that's going to have to do with ETs. That's going to have to do with revelations of things, lies coming down, or revealings of things happening politically, in the science community, in medicine. A lot of stuff is going to be revealed in the next 10 years, and it's going to completely alter the way we live our lives. Yeah. Do any of you see that as well, as far as you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think you're going to be doing this alone.
No, it's not going to be me alone. No.
Yeah.
But there will be people by my side, the right people for the right positions in the right ways. I see her. Absolutely. I will definitely keep you in mind, Kat.
I feel like you and I have maybe some co-creating to do together anyway. But did you want to hop in and say something else, Angela? I didn't mean to cut you off. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I see the same thing too. But it's as humanity comes into remembrance of this divine beingness that we move into this new way of being, and that affects all the structures that have stood before education, medicine. Everything is going to be changed, because we're going to know how to heal ourselves. We're going to understand ourselves as our own innate healers, the capacity that we innately hold within ourselves to be how we have been in the past, or it should have been in the past, I guess you could say. But it's going to all fall in line. And those of us who have this knowing, who share this knowingness, are being drawn together, is what I see in a community. And sharing this information to help expand the consciousness of those who have not yet come fully online. So it's
it should be called like the great remembering, it's and this awakening won't be stopped. It can be prolonged but never stopped. It's going to happen. So that's just the reality of it. And you're right about people coming together. I feel that too. I think that everyone in their way is going to be drawn together to do their own part. And I had someone say the other day, comment me on a video or something. It's like, why do you think like this? Right? That was the comment I got. To me, it's common sense. I mean, this is how I think. My reaction back was like, why don't you think like this? That's a real question. Like, I'm thinking totally fine. It's like, so people, I guess, still at that very place where this stuff to them, I think, would be incredibly backwards to them, or somewhere in left field that doesn't necessarily fit in their norm. But eventually these topics are going to become more and more common, and more people are going to be joining in and saying there's something to this. These people are going through something real. They're not just making things up and pretending. There might be a part of the world, part of the category that does that, or people that are whatever. But the reality is that these people are going through this, and it's not, and it's real, and it's happening. Like I can't, with me, the stuff I went through is just, and all at once, it's just like, it just, I can maybe understand my lifetime of like consistently, but I feel like I slept in, and they're like, uh-oh, you slept in 10 years too late. Time to catch up. That's what it feels like for sure. And I think, you know what, I don't know if you have much more time or whatever, but I want to kind of wrap it up with the ET thing, because I know you talked about a quick thing on my
Let's talk about the
ET
ET experience, and then we also want to talk about the Sky Knight Academy. So let's talk about the ET. And yes, thank you for.
Yeah, sure. So after the Kundalini, another year after, I guess would be, about a year. So this was in 2012 when my first kind of real, now here's say conscious, my first real conscious ET discovery, because there were many and plenty before. They weren't just conscious. So my first conscious one was when I had a UFO come and stop at the top of my head about 100 feet up, if you will. I don't know exactly, but about 100 feet up. It was close enough to see everything I needed to see with it. No, it was UFO. There were lights spinning underneath it, but they looked like they were spinning, but I think they were just kind of going like this, but they looked like they were spinning. And this energy, once again, this energy it just hit me. It's just bombarding me with a certain energy. And this is expanding. This is putting the Kundalini stuff on steroids. It's taking that level, that Kundalini energy, and blowing it up. I don't know why I needed so much. Well, maybe I do, because I had to go through all that stuff, because all that energy like gave me the energy to get through all this. So maybe that's what it was for. Maybe I'm figuring that out right now as I talk. The reality of all that energy was just to get me through everything for the 10 years following. And there was more a telepathic message saying everything's going to be okay. So kind of reassuring me that it's all going to be okay, because it wasn't okay, but maybe that message was like, it is okay. And then after that, very shortly, was the abductions that would consistently happen more consciously. I had also the government or CIA or Black Ops, helicopters, the whole gambit following me around. I had a van outside my place listening in, following me, tracking me. I had helicopters doing circles around me and then taking pictures of me with some weird black box thing. I had a lot of heat on me, a lot of heat. When I left from Vancouver Island, I went up north to Fort St. John, North BC. And that's when I had the experience with the Men in Black. It was just one man. Well, here's the thing. I can't say it was Men in Black, but I mean, it looked like it would have been like, so he had this, he just like, they said wearing black. I mean, that's like Men in Black. So like a black longer jacket and dressed up in a suit, tie, and that black. So very businesslike, very professional, very, he had a briefcase and it had a logo that looked very eerily similar, not the same, but to the Vatican, but similar. The cross keys, the crown, stuff like that. But it wasn't the exact image, but similar. And he was just, it wasn't about anything bad. He was just like, hello, Mr. Tolly. It's like, what did you say, Mr. Jeff? But hello, Mr. Tolly. I'm here with an organization that monitors ET life on and off the earth. That same kind of speech you hear. And we know of your interactions. And I just wanted to talk to you in person and ask you how you are. How are things going? What's happening? How is your mental health? Do you feel okay? Do you need anything? And we're just checking in on you. And then actually after that day, I learned that those helicopters came in that day before, or that day that he arrived, because I had a friend that her friend worked in the airport, and he said, yeah, a bunch of military choppers came in and we don't know why. And it was that next day he was there. So it's like he flew in on those choppers, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to piece it together, but they were following me for a couple of years and then they stopped. Now, do they still track me and stuff? Probably. I don't know. But they don't do it like they did. So that's kind of like goes into that, and that kind of, and then the ET stuff's been ever since. So being abducted, having experiences on ships with the hybrid program, the sexual stuff on the ships, and other kind of trainings. I get these dreams and images of being trained with them.
So you can't glean over that. You just like, that was like, wow. So
yeah, I know, like it's a lot, right? I just kind of skim through, because obviously that's a story in itself.
I feel a part two happening. So let's hear about, gosh, you said so much there. So I take it, let's talk about the hybrid program. And I imagine that's where they're taking some specimens from you to help generate some amazing hybrid beings. Can you imagine? But also, Jeff, you talked to me about like you being a hybrid yourself because you're able to tolerate pain, heat, cold, extreme things.
Yeah,
With,
the hybrid thing for me is very interesting. I don't necessarily talk about
talk about
in
it
a
a
big
little,
way.
however you're comfortable, but give us some
But I
gist.
mean, yeah, I found out that my mother and father were then, or my mother was then genetically altered, or the egg was taken and there was a little bit of a alteration or a genetic injection that was added to that egg, and then out comes me. So that like wraps up, like when I was told that, it was like, I get it. This is why I felt so odd when I was a kid. This is why I felt connected to nature. This is why I can intuitively read people's minds, and like I have this, and like genetically I have a physical strength that is stupidly strong for my size. I have like I said, I have a tolerance to hot and cold that is beyond what it should be. I have tolerances to things, absolutely, in pain, even though I have a lot of pain. For what for the injuries I have, even doctors have said you should be crippled with what you have. But so there is that like genetic component. I don't want to go too much into that, but that kind of, I think, says it all more or less on that level as far as being a hybrid. So the hybrid thing for me, honestly, was the last piece of the puzzle that made up me. When I was given that information, everything sunk in. I was like, okay, I get it. Like being saved too. That's another story. But like I said, the story's vast, but being saved by them as well. When I had an accident and I fell off a cliff, and then it was like I fell into a mattress or pillows. I hit a tree when I was skiing head first, and it was like same thing. I fell into a mattress or pillows. I was in a car accident, and the car was about to flip, and something pushed it down back on the fours. There was another accident that I could have had, should have had, didn't happen. I was just like moved out of the way. I don't know how, it just happened. So there was like this whole being saved aspect to my story that didn't make sense when it was happening either. It's a wild story that could seem very made up. I get that. I do. Even sometimes I think like, man, I don't think I can make it up though. You know, it's like something to sit here and make this stuff up would be like really ridiculous to do. I just don't think I'm that creative to do something like that. But I could see how people could think that, you know, I get it. I do.
On Third Eye Salon, it's just another Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or in our case, a Saturday. But can you talk about the salamander beings? Because that's who because these are beings I'd never heard of before. And I always love meeting new ETs, you know, vicariously. But would you tell us
Sure.
more about the beings that you're working with or that are working with you, that part of your
So there's
your
multiple
ET?
different beings, but they're from Sirius. That's what I've been told. They're like Sirius beings. And they're more kind of water land, and they look like standing up salamanders. Like they look like salamanders. I don't know what to say. Some of them have a little different too. Like you could say reptilian. I'm not listening, the whole reptilian thing. It's not about that, but like they have that reptile nature to them. They're the same beings that visited the Dogon tribe in Egypt a long time ago. That same aspect. But yeah, I don't do a lot with them. I've seen them, and they've been on ships through the hybridization program. So have been the Pleiades, if you will, like the blondes and the blue-eyed ones, and also the grays. So what I've seen is a mixed bag of ETs together. So when we think it's just like one race doing things, it's not. They're together doing a bunch of. I also see like very human looking, except for slightly larger heads, larger eyes, littler necks, little bodies. But very human, right? And I think they're going to be the first to contact because they look like us so much that they should be the first, where there's this real human look. Yeah, the alien thing is very interesting. I don't want to go too deep into it because that's where it takes a whole other twist and turn. But this being around them, being in their energy, which is another thing, this getting used to their energy thing has been something that I know I've been working with. And I do know that there's some sort of conscious thing that will happen where eventually I think, I hope, I should, it's kind of working up to it where there's going to be a landing, a walk into the ship, you know, a fly with them, a very conscious reality to this, where now it's through dream, it's through taking me at nighttime, it's through, you know, taking me while I'm going for a walk. It's all this like unconscious stuff that usually comes back through memory. But there will be a time, I'm told, that they will take me in a very conscious, real way, and they're going to give me apparently a piece of something, whether it be technology or something, to then give that. They're building a middleman thing with people, like humanity and people. They're giving certain people this job for middleman stuff to say, I have connection, and like a messenger with proof. Because like you can be a messenger, but where's your proof, right? there's going to be eventually where there's going to be a proof to the message and saying, look, this isn't from Earth. I have it, and there's a message that goes with it, something like that. I don't know exactly what it will be, but something on that level.
Well, Jeff, the other thing is that you're like an amazing artist. You showed me one of your pieces of artwork and we were chatting the other night. And have you ever drawn these beings that you are connected to, or you're part of your
I did
family?
one drawing of them, a long time ago, but you know what? I think that's a great idea. I will draw you a picture of them and send it to you.
Yes. Like,
I know that's where you're getting at.
That's exactly where I'm at. Well, here's what I was thinking, because last week we had Jason Adkins on. He's a psychic medium that draws. He's just started drawing his expansion of his gifts. He started drawing people's ET connections, their star family people. Okay. And it was just so cool because he showed me a picture the other night where he messaged me like this new one that came through, and I was like, I've never seen this before. And so I think having these visual representations is huge. And because it's your experience, the thing is that whatever is in our experience, we tend to take it for granted a lot of times. We don't see it because we're in the landscape of it. Yeah. And to pull back and say, oh my gosh, here are these Star Nation beings, and oh, hey, I'm an amazing artist, because he really is. We'll have to show you, if we'll share in our Facebook group whatever you're comfortable sharing with your artwork, Jeff. Sure. So I also don't want to break any boundaries. But for you to be able to say, here are some of the beings, what can happen for people is people go, oh my God, I remember that. I recognize that. Yeah. And it gives them a point of awakening within their journey. So when we can help each other like that with these visual cues, it helps people wake up into the remembrance of their cosmic family and their Star Nation kin. Yeah, because there's a lot of people having certain contacts. They're stuck in that memory, and it's got to come out. So the memory actually coming out gives them an idea of where they are as far as how close they are to contact too. So they'll have interactions, and we'll see how long the memory takes to trickle out. Then they know how close that person is to being in their energy field as well. So they'll gauge it that way. They'll gauge things in that way, which makes a lot of sense. They are waiting for us, just like they're waiting for us to be ready. And I think something, they got to have probably over, I'm guessing 60, 70% or something. Like there's probably a percentage threshold they need in order to say, here we are, and we're here to stay. And, I don't know what that is. I'm guessing, that's how they're going to do it. No, that's exactly right. That's everything I hear as well, where it's like, there has to be, because it's all consciousness, it's all frequency. And so in order to be able to match our vibration, we need to be in that vibration, and then have enough people in that vibration for there to be a similar, close enough frequency for them to be able to connect, and they'll be able to be that link in between. So it's our responsibility to wake the freak up, right? It's and grow, like the growth, right? Going through this inner stuff is going to help raise your frequency to that level. And, I know there's an energy now that is helping this process, but it's not just going to give it to you. You still have to be active in going through the process. It's why everyone's shizzle is being shaken so hard right now. It's like, we've had planets in retrograde, we've had solar flares, we've had, the moon going into, a lunar eclipse. It's like all of this is just going to keep amplifying. It's not going to get easier. It's not going to stop. What's going to get easier is our surrender and our release and our healing. So that way we're running with the energy, and it's no longer having, like your Kundalini, it's no longer having to punch through our resistance and punch through our thickness, our density. We're able to be cleansed and clear enough for it to sing through us, and for it to, like Angela is such a good example of that, I feel like, where she's able to just tune in, and it's like it's radiating and coming through. And for all of us to do that is our responsibility. We're not going to be spoon-fed ascension. We're not going to be spoon-fed disclosure. We need to stand up and take our place. It's just how it is. Yeah, absolutely. We have to grow the bleep up. All right, let's swing over into your academy and tell us about Night Sky Academy, mister. Okay, so the Night Sky Academy is basically designed through my awakening. I was able to put together a collection of techniques that I use to help go through this process. We kind of break it down into 4 different bodies, because we have the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual bodies. Now they all go together, but they are separate and can be worked on, and they have to be worked on together, but they kind of harmonize. So I guess the academy in a way is structured for your inner growth.
And also we do some things on the outer as well when it comes to the world, what's going on, you know, what's happening as far as outer stuff, but also within, how to wake up, how to grow up, how to go through these processes when it comes to the awakening. If you are someone who's waking up, this will help speed that up again, I guess, or help you through it if you get stuck. It's just, you know, I designed it in a way that I would have wanted this when I went through this. It would have really helped me, and I designed it for me, more or less, that could really help with others. And it's I do one-on-ones with people. I'm in the process of building a digital course it's just going to be me on camera and some other things and some homework, but they do a one-on-one right now where it's a 12-week thing, and I work with you specifically with your specific issues, with what you're specifically going through, and help you along in whatever you may need help with. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, I guess, what it is. But I'm in the process of building a mystery school as well. So that's like, it goes back to that, the ancient knowledge and wisdom. That's one of my true passions. So the mystery school is still kind of in the process, but there's quite a bit done. And I still kind of do some teachings on that. But that is something that I'm doing. And obviously that ties into the school that I've seen. So there's going to be a real brick and mortar school to this when it comes to learning different things and stuff, when it comes to our world and our souls. And I think the soul knowledge too, the idea of our soul knowledge, like our souls and the knowledge of it, have been so suppressed that we just think we're physical. We think that we are whoever. We need to learn more about who we are, you know, naturally. And then also learning about what follows after life. So learning about this allows for fear to drift away. It allows for you to develop in different ways. It allows for you to expand and see things differently. So yeah, the academy, the night sky as well, play on words as far as the night sky, the stars. We get into astrotheology, astrology, all kinds of stuff. And then the night is a theme of being a warrior and bringing out that inner night and being a warrior for yourself in your own life. And that's the greatest way I can describe it. Like, you can find me, the nightskyacademy.com is where you can find the page. And then I have a YouTube channel too called the Night Sky Academy YouTube channel. I think the links will be in the description, but
Oh yes, they're all
Yeah.
down there. Can I ask you, because I know originally you had called this Bronze Night, and I'm wondering why you had changed, because it's interesting. I have my own thoughts, but why did you go from
Sure.
bronze to night?
So the Bronze Night was an element to it. So what I realized is that I wanted to put all the elements instead of single one out. The Bronze Night was very captivating because bronze is the idea of the balance, and just being more in balance as far as using that element in that way. Bronze about healing and stuff. And I thought I can actually add in all the elements, bronze, silver, gold, and iron, to the company. And so the Night Sky Academy was going to be the umbrella. And then the 4 elements of change is going to be the teachings within it. So if I just had it to bronze, it didn't fit well. I had to do a rebranding. And that's just what I did. I came to the conclusion, I need to rebrand this properly so I can add in the different elements, because we go through these elements, right? The iron, the silver, the bronze, the gold. We are transmuting ourselves, you know, that iron into gold. It's like that alchemy idea of the different seasons of our life, the different elements, just the different levels of this awakening. So yeah, that's why I did that.
That's great, and that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
So now, before we go into wrap up, I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure the ladies, if there's anything else that ladies would like to do, any other cross-examining before we.
Oh, sure.
I think Jillian's got something.
No, I was just gonna say I agree about the percentage threshold of
Yeah.
people, you know, for this to come out and actually be able to be a thing.
Yeah.
It has to get to a certain point where there's enough people that can accept even the ET reality and the ET experience
Yeah.
to be able to hone it into the earth and hone it into the community and our reality.
Yeah, because it's going to have to be grounded. This discovery is going to take decades to integrate throughout society. It's going to take a while.
Oh yeah.
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 And I
definitely.
also think we just, it's the same when I had the experience of seeing one and pointing it out to people
Yeah.
and then not being able to see it.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
3 of us could see it. Other people couldn't. And I think the difference was that they would have gone into fear had they seen it. We were all in curiosity.
Yeah.
We
There's
were
this
all in
idea.
Awesome, cool. And,
Yeah.
you know, followed up for half an hour. But people standing right under it couldn't see it.
Well, with me, it created a psychotic shock. and I'm sure they don't want that to happen to the whole world, or they're going to be very hard to deal with. I kind of feel like I was a little bit of a tester. Let's test and see how far we can go with this guy. Let's see what really happens. I don't know, but there was a psychotic shock that lasted for a while, and if you just abruptly come to someone like that in that manner, Kundalini, NDE, now ET energy stuff, it's like, I guess they're not going to do that to everyone, but like, I don't know, maybe it was a test thing. I don't know what it was, but they will, if they just come down and land. And first of all, they're not going to do that because we live in an insane asylum and we have guns. So they're not going to be crazy to do that. And they're going to do it on our terms. They're going to do it when we're more ready. So they're not messing with making our world even worse than what it is in a chaotic way. So absolutely, I agree, Linda. Yeah.
Anything else before we switch over into our goodbyes? Okay, we're looking good. We're looking good. All right, I'm going to switch it into the Brady Bunch view. So Linda, stop picking your nose. Just kidding.
Not me again. Jeez.
JK. All right. Oh, there's a little, hold on one second, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. All righty. So then let us do this. Actually, I'm going to toss the mic to Miss Linda, and she can tell everybody how much we love them.
Oh, my favorite part, telling everyone how much I love them. I want to thank Angela and Jillian for taking another Saturday with us, because you add so much to the show. Thank you, Jeff, for being willing to share things you didn't ever share anywhere else, which is what we do so amazingly. The coming together of all of us allows that
Awesome.
extended. Yeah. And I think that's why we're so different. So yeah. I really want to also thank our audience, because you guys are amazing. You're loyal. You bring so much to the conversation. I really appreciate you. And make sure that you like, share, subscribe so that other people can join this happy family. And look at Jeff's links below. And I thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Well said, Linda. Yeah,
and so thank you, Kat.
Oh, of course, of course.
Of course. You pulled us all together. Thank you.
It's my pure blessing, to be honest. And we just had so many great chats in the live stream. So thank you everyone for being there. And so just to let you know, next week we'll take a break for Thanksgiving. There might be a video that shows up there. We'll see. I might do a pre-recording or something, but if not, I'll let everybody know in the Facebook group what's up, which is a good reminder to join the Facebook group if this is your first time watching this. Other than that, make sure you like the video to help us meet more people like the wonderful community that we have right now. Hit the notification bell if you're new around here, so that way you know when we go live, because we're not always on time. Sometimes there's tech issues when you do live stream. And then the week after that, we will be meeting Amanda Hainline. And that's Hainline. That's not a common name. And she's somebody talking about Kundalini awakening, somebody opened up her chakras. It was part of this new practice they were doing. And so they opened up her chakras. She went through something, I guess it would be a Kundalini awakening, where she was just like, okay, great. I can't turn anything off now. I'm connected to everything and I can't function anymore. Yeah. And she learned all of her healing modalities from angels directly. The angels were like, don't go to anybody. We're going to teach you how to do your healing work now. So she's now like functional again. Of course, it does take a while to figure out how to navigate that. But she'll be coming on. We'll be hearing about her journey, her story. And yeah, so that'll be 2 weeks from now. Other than that, I just want to say, Jeff, we love you. We're so grateful that you're here. And thank you for being part of our community. And we look forward to some of your images in our Facebook group. Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on for sure, Kat and Linda and Angela and Jillian. It's all great to meet you all. And I think, sharing my story, I didn't for so long. And this is, a handful of times now I've been able to do this. And each time it gets easier. And each time it's healing. It really is benefiting me in my own way. So having that release too has been a benefit in such a way I probably didn't quite understand, but it has been very, very good to get myself out there, to put myself out there, to own my shit, and to say it the way I see it has been very good for me.
That is awesome.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Let's see if I can do a little, we'll do a little outro song maybe. If it'll let me. You all can hear that. If you can hear that, let me know in the comments below because it's the first time we've done this. So, all right, everybody. We love you so much. Have an awesome day, and we will talk to you very soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.